This is Fredrik from Fimbul Winter, and you're watching Richard Metal Fans.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 349 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Fredrik Andersson. Fredrik Andersson plays with a Canerous Quintet, has a new band, Fimbul Winter. He also used to play with a little band called Amon Amarth. How you're doing today, Fredrik?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's like 8 in the morning here in good old Georgia in USA. How's it over in Sweden?
It's 2 in the afternoon, and it's a windy one today. We just had that storm passing today.
Oh shit. Yeah, it's a bit chilly today, so I'm guessing like the storm like y'all are bringing like the storm here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't keep track of the storms. They're all a brewing.
Yeah. But it's great to be able to have you on. So, kind of the format of the show is I want to talk about like your history and sort of do a rundown of your discography, but take me back to young Frederick. So, growing up in Sweden, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing an instrument?
12, 13 years. Started hanging out at the local youth club near my school, and they had a record player and a room full of records, and it was all hard rock and stuff like that. So discovered Maiden, Priest, Metallica, Dio, and stuff like that. Uh, and then I guess later on moved on to harder stuff. So the Swedish scene, like Entombed, Grotesque at the time at the Gates was huge influence, obviously, and also like the American death metal scene, Morbid Angel, Death, Obituary, Carcass from the UK, stuff like that.
Nice. And sort of like doing my research, I want to talk about, I believe, like your first band, Canerous Quintet. So tell me about that. Like, how'd you get to know like everybody?
Well, we grew up in the same area basically, so we just a bunch of teenagers started hanging and started getting interested in playing. So we formed a band together. I formed it originally with Morton, the singer, and we were another band where I played then guitar, and we were a four-piece. But then I started playing drums, and we got two additional guitar players, and became a Canerous Quintet after that.
Yeah. And tell me about like that first demo, The Time of Autumn. Like, where was that recorded at?
That was recorded in our rehearsal room on a 4-track or 8-track cassette, like a Tascam cassette recorder, the multi-track recorder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just very raw sounding. Was that so? I'm guessing you just like sort of like handed it around, just playing locally around like Stockholm and stuff.
Yeah, I mean there was a huge underground scene in Stockholm at the time. There was basically club shows every weekend almost, and sometimes multiple shows every weekend. But I mean, yeah, small club shows, maybe 100, to 300 people at every show. So it was buzzing, and we actually, yeah, we played a lot in the Stockholm area. Like had a lot of gigs, and were became quite a scene or a name in the underground scene with the Canerous Quintet, which is why when we later on when we got the record label, we were discussing if we should change the name because we started to realize that the name wasn't maybe as attracting to and didn't describe the music maybe as fitting as we thought it would. But then we thought we already had a big, like, everybody knew who we were in our area, so we felt it would be stupid to change the name then. But I mean, in hindsight, maybe it would have been a good idea to change it before we started releasing albums. But here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. And then talking about like your first EP as Tears, I thought it was pretty good, and you got signed to, I believe, your first label, Chaos Records. So how did they find a Canerous Quintet?
Well, Chaos was a sub label to No Fashion at that time. So we just went into the local record store, which is called House of Kicks, which was also owned by No Fashion at that time, and is still basically. But and we just handed the guy who was working there at the record store, which if I'm not mistaken, was David, who used to sing in Opeth at that time. He was he was like the first singer of Opeth, but he worked there, and so we gave him the, which was a demo at the time. The As Tears was just a demo, and we gave it to him, and he played it, and he thought it was so good, so he brought it upstairs, and the guys at No Fashion, they didn't want to release it at No Fashion because it was an EP, and they wanted to try it out, so they released it on the sub label Chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, and then again, of course, going into 1996, you got signed to No Fashion Records, and you did the first full-length album with the Canerous Quintet, "Silence of the World Beyond." Tell me about that album.
Uh, well, it's a long time ago. I mean, yeah, we recorded it at Studio Abyss with Peter Tätgren, and well, maybe it was more. Yeah, I think it was Peter who recorded it, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly. Yeah, so we were still just kids, you know. Me and Morton were the oldest ones. I was 20, I think, which I guess it we well, I mean, no one of us had a driver license, so we we had, I think it was Leo's dad who drove us there and dropped us off at the studio, which is like 2 3 hours away from Stockholm, and we just did our thing, recording day and night, and you know, sleeping in the studio. We were there for a week or 10 days or something like that. And every time we had to go to buy some groceries, we walked like, I don't know, 2 3 kilometers, which is what, like 1.5 2 miles or something like that, to the local gas station where we could buy some the not so strong beers and some necessary groceries and stuff like that. But we didn't know what the fuck we were doing basically. But we believed in the music. We thought the songs were good, and we were taking it really seriously. We practiced basically every day in the rehearsal room, and yeah, though back in the day, you know, you recorded drums, the whole album, in like 1 or 2 days, then guitars in 1 2 days, then vocals 1 2 days, and then you mix the whole thing in like 2 days, and then you were done, just back home.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think still a great. I feel like there with like a debut album, there's always like that debut charm, and I just think it's, in my opinion, an underrated debut album in like the whole Swedish death metal scene.
Yeah, and I think that it has partially to do with the name we chose, and the like the logo design. I think it's a little bit off-putting to people, and they don't. If you just look at the logo and the band name, you don't realize that it's actually brutal melodic death metal. So that was a mistake. But I mean, it's been like 30 years, so what can we do?
Yeah, and I know next year will be the 30-year anniversary. And being as that the album is now almost 30 years old, you have like a different viewpoint about it now as opposed to when you first put it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all matured a lot, and I mean, we still play live now, and we actually picked it up in the last few years quite a lot. So, and we are going to celebrate the 30-year anniversary next year, and play the full album in its entirety,
Oh, wow.
for the first time ever.
Yeah, and I'm jealous. Jealous. I live in America. I would fly out to Sweden to see that.
Well, yeah, we have a couple of shows, one in Germany at least, and some others coming up. But nothing stateside, unfortunately. And I guess it's tricky now with visas and all that, so we'll see what happens
Yeah.
with
Yeah, definitely. That shit ain't cheap, man.
that. No.
Yeah. But then going into the next album, The Only Pure Hate, I thought that was a great follow-up to Silence of the World Beyond, because usually with the debut album, you have like your entire life to write, and there's a lot of hype with the first album. When it came to making The Only Pure Hate, did you felt like any pressure to follow up Silence of the World Beyond?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, what happened was, I guess, because we recorded Silence I think it was the winter of 94 to 95. And then, uh, hang on. No, it was in the winter of 95 that we recorded it. And it took almost a year before it was released. It was released in September of 96 or something like that, October maybe even. And So by the time we had written Silence of the World Beyond and recorded it, at the Gates released Slaughter of the Soul, which was like, it's just a game changer. It just
Yeah,
changed
a
everything.
classic.
Yeah, but it wasn't at the time. It wasn't like it was. We were only a few like fans of At the Gates. They weren't as big as they become later on. So and a lot of people said that they were a bit off put by his vocals, which
Yeah,
you know, what the fuck.
yeah,
um, but yeah, obviously that album was like a game changer, and it started to change for them after that, and they just stepped up the game so much for all the bands, you
yeah.
know.
Did you do any
So
shows with At the Gates at the during that time?
yeah, yeah, we did a couple of shows with them. Actually, the first one was like in the first, or yeah, we played with them a couple of times. Um, I can talk almost as much more about them than about myself. But
Yeah,
I actually I booked a show with At the Gates. It was right before they released. We're gonna release the Terminal Spirit Disease album, and I got a copy of the album from Tompa on cassette. It was they basically came straight from the studio, and we just listened to it nonstop from that point. But that show was very chaotic.
yeah,
Also,
yeah. I know we recently lost Thomas
yeah.
a while back. So, is there any like special like memories that you have with Thomas?
Well, that is a very strong memory. The one when I booked the show and I got the cassette from him personally, because he knew I was a big fan. Um, and I met him during the years, uh, every once in a while, and he's just a fucking amazing person. He's a unicorn in the business. But and yeah, that was it's hard
Yeah,
to to um to yeah, to live with that
yeah,
he is gone.
yeah. Yeah, but kind of talking about the only pure
Yeah,
hate. You sort
sorry.
of
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, we kind of sorry, we got a little sidetracked, but talking about that the album, about album, how what was that whole recording process like?
yeah. What I was gonna get to was the fact that since At the Gates released the Slaughter of the Soul, we felt that we have to step up our game, and like we started practicing even more with like every day in the rehearsal room. We tightened the songs a lot, and just tried to make it more brutal, more Slayer-esque, I guess, was our attempt. And I think the songs and the material on the album is exactly what we wanted to do and what we were aiming for. But I think we made a mistake of going to Sunlight Studio and record it because we didn't have the same idea. We wanted to record it with the click, but Thomas Cooksbury didn't think that was rock and roll, so he refused.
Yeah, very punk
um,
rock.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But that was fine. I mean, we practiced without click anyway, so it was that wasn't a big issue. But I think we didn't know really what sound we were aiming for, and even the album actually sounded really good when we were in Sunlight. But then the biggest fuck up was when we mastered the album. We had the idea that we needed to compress it a lot to get it even tighter, you know. So we told the we were at Polar Studio, which is one of the biggest mastering studios in Stockholm, and we told this poor girl working there, who was not so experienced with this kind of music. We just told her, compress more compression, compress it more, and she was like, "Are you sure?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, fuck yeah, more compression." And then when we got the album, it's so compressed. It barely uh, goes up to normal standards of in volume of other albums. So like when we ended up on like samplers, that was big at that time. All the magazines released a sampler, and even No Fashion released sampler CDs. The volume of our track was much lower, and I think that's what that was obviously a mistake from our side, but it was also a reason why it didn't pick up as well as the first album. The first album sold like 10,000 copies, which was good at that time.
Yeah. And and yeah, and then you started playing around Sweden and stuff, and it was around 1999 when the band broke up. So how hard was it to sort of end the Canerous Quintet?
It was we were basically burnt out, like from all the rehearsing and playing shows, and we were living basically in the rehearsal room and being that close together. Uh, on everybody had their opinion of where we wanted to go and which direction, what the music and everything. So there was constant fightings, as kids do. So we were pretty burnt out, and then we were offered to tour with Edge of Sanity in Europe for like 5 weeks. But to be able to do, I even have an Edge of Sanity shirt. I
Yeah,
didn't
very
know I was going to
underrated
talk.
band in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know we were going to talk about this stuff. But anyway, we were offered to tour with them. But to be able to do the tour, we needed tour support from No Fashion, and they were like, "No, uh, we don't want to put the money on that." It was like at that time, I can't remember, maybe like $2,000, $3,000 or something like that, which was a lot at that time. It was more than probably the studio budget. Um, or maybe it was less. It must have been less. It wasn't that much, anyways. But they said no anyway, and we were so discouraged by that, and we had our internal fightings, and we just said, "Fuck it, we just disband the we quit. We
Yeah.
can't do this anymore." And I think it was like the second or first or second week after we released the Only Pure Hate. So No Fashion basically just dropped every promotion for it. They just released it and did nothing more with it. We didn't do any interviews or anything for the album. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah, and then I think it was like between that and before you joined up with Amon Amarth, you did Guidance of Sin. I know you did like the Soul Disparity demo and you did the full length Soul Seducer. So tell me about them. Like how'd you hook up with them?
well. It's basically it's Linus and Jesper from A Canerous Quintet. It was their side band, and we had it on the side uh, in the end of A Canerous Quintet as well. They were working, and they I think for Linus he was tired of A Canerous Quintet, and he focused more on Guidance of Sin at the time, I think, and also Jesper, who didn't write so much music for A Canerous Quintet, he wrote more music with Guidance of Sin, and felt maybe more uh, compelled to continue with that. And I don't think it was actually the plan wasn't actually that I was going to play drums on it. I think because me and Linus were had an on and off kind of relationship at the time. We were we were like friends, and then we were biggest enemies at some like on and off like that. And but I guess they just needed someone to play the drums and asked me to do it. Uh, but then obviously I jumped off when I got offered to play with Damon Amarth.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and then tell me about like getting the gig with Amon Amarth. Like how'd you get to know like Johan Hegg and everybody?
well, we played. We knew them. I met them first time in like '93 or '94, right before they released their demo. I saw them open up for Dissection in Stockholm, and I was really impressed by them. So I walked up to them after the show and started talking to them, Ollie actually, and we did a couple of shows with them. We in the Canerous Quintet and they in Amon Amarth in Stockholm. um, and we're like hanging out sometimes in parties and stuff like that. So we were, I mean, not maybe not friends, but we were at least hanging out in the scene together. So Ollie called me and just asked me if I wanted to be in his band. Um, and it was right after we had disbanded Canerous Quintet. So I just asked him, "Oh, wow, how did you know that that we quit A Canerous Quintet?" Because the word wasn't out yet, and he was like, "No, I didn't. I just figured you would quit if you get offered to play with us instead," which I thought was a bit. I know a little slight bit of hubris, but he was right, I guess, in a way. So
Yeah. Yeah, then talking about like your first record with the Monomarth, The Avenger, I love this album. So, what was that like being like this was like your first record with them?
um, it was a bit hard actually because I was really impressed by the demo. I got a copy of the demo from Ollie, and I listened to that a lot, and I listened to the mini CD, the Soar Throughout the Nine Worlds, but I didn't pick up the full length. I never bought the full length album, the 1 cent. So I hadn't really. They've been out of my like radar for a year or two, so I didn't really. I hadn't listened to them that much. And then when we met up in the rehearsal room, first we played some demo songs because I just knew them by heart. So we just started playing them and jamming. And then they started introducing. Well, the deal was that we had a tour booked. So I was asked in like the fall of '98, I guess, or '99 and or '98, and we had a there was a tour booked for the spring of '99. So they needed me first and foremost for that tour. So we just first we just practiced like the material that they already had, and then they introduced the new album, and the new album was already written, and they had rehearsed it with Lopez most of the songs. So they already had the idea of what they wanted the drums to be like. So I didn't really have that much to say on that album. I guess I interpreted what they said that they wanted on that. So I was a little bit thrown back by the songs and the sound they were aiming for. I thought it was less melodic than I wanted it to be. It was more like I think Ollie was listening a lot to Bolt Thrower at the time, so he wanted to have that kind of Bolt Thrower more sound, which it worked, but it was just not what I expected it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know you like during the cycle you started like it was like your first time like playing like outside of like Sweden. Like what was that whole experience like playing in front of like a in different countries?
Uh, I think we played one show in Denmark with the Canerous Quintet. So I had been outside of Sweden, but obviously Amon Amarth was a different story altogether, especially since they were signed to Metal Blade. The first show that I played with Amon Amarth was actually at Wacken.
Oh wow. The the like that's like a bucket list goal to go to that festival, but that shit sells out instantly.
Yeah, now it does, but it wasn't that. This was in '99 and or 2000. So yeah, yeah, probably through 2000, I guess. And we played like at noon or something like that on the one of the main stages. It was still it was maybe, I don't know, 10, 15,000 people or something like that. Still quite a big step from playing for 400 people to that amount.
Yeah. And one thing I thought interesting with this album, like it was so this was there was sort of like a I guess like a Amon Marth had like a short-lived feud with Hammerfall during that time period. Like I was just curious about that.
Yeah, that was before my time. I only heard the story what happened. They played some festival in Germany, uh, I think in East Germany, and they were like for some I guess a lot of people at the time in Sweden were a bit I guess jealous of Hammerfall because they just popped up and became huge, and it was everybody thought they were coming from nothing. But later on, we realized they weren't coming from nothing. They had been fighting to get where they were, so it was completely fair. But it was at that time, and especially being a Stockholm band, and they were from Gothenburg, we thought they were pussies. I mean, that was the because they didn't play death metal. They played like and the power metal kind of style that they had was kind of slightly out of fashion at the time. So it was an easy pick, I guess. I wasn't really involved in that, but I know that they played that show in Germany, and they started throwing the plastic cups that was served beer in. They
Yeah.
started throwing that on stage while they were playing,
Oh wow.
and
Oh my
I thought
God.
that was funny, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and then going into then your next record, the Monomarth, the Crusher. I love this album, but with this album, did you start to contribute more on this than with the Avenger?
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% my drum patterns written on that, and I had more to say in the songwriting. Everything. I even have like one or two riffs of my own on that album.
Yeah,
So,
which ones did you do? There's like
Masters of War. I was I wrote the middle section with the drums thing. I wrote that riff and that arrangement.
nice. Nice and nice. And then I love how you basically like on this album you sort of like did like an old song from the Thor Rise demo, which was Risen from the Sea. So what made you decide to like redo like an old song?
I mean that was their call. I think the the complaint was that the Avenger was too short. I mean, it's only like 35, 36 minutes or something like that. So Metal Blade were complaining that it was too short. So we needed, and we never wrote more songs than we wanted to have on the album. So we never had any extra material, anything like that. But Metal Blade wanted bonus material. So then that's what happened. We just re-recorded that demo track.
Yeah. And you also did like a cover song. I have this version. You did a cover of Possessed's Eyes of Horror. So what made you
Oh
guys
yeah.
decide to do a cover song?
That was it was supposed to be on a sampler or something like that, and that recording was horrible. We were I don't I don't remember what we did the night before, but we were partying hard. So I came to the studio and I was probably still drunk. We were all like still drunk, and by the time we left the studio, we recorded that song in one day, everything. By the time we left the studio, or during the day, we started to get hungover and had to drink more just to survive the whole day. And we just went straight from the studio to the next pub. But
Nice.
it was a horrible recording, and I never even listened to Possessed, so I just like listened to the song before I recorded it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. What was sort of like the whole album cycle like? Did you start like touring outside of Europe with this album?
Um, I mean, the first couple of albums, uh, what what we did, in Europe, there was these metal festival tours. So it was what the fuck were they called? Xmas something in the winter, and then in the spring it was No Mercy, I think it was called. So it was basically an ambulating festival. There was like up to 10 bands touring together, doing like 10 to 12 shows in Central Europe. So that was what we mostly did. Like one of those tours every year, either in the spring or in the fall, and then a bunch of festivals. But we were only at that time we were like a mid tier. We weren't headliner. We did those kind of tours. I think we did one tour with Morbid Angel headlining. We did one tour with Marduk headlining. Um, I think that was during the Crusher time. That was Marduk. If I might be wrong, that's a long time ago. But so we were basically somewhere in the middle, playing not an opener, but like the middle band on that billing, and that was it. We didn't do any long tours or any big tours like that. We just maybe one small tour of 10 days every year. Or
Yeah. Yeah, and then the next album, Versus the World, thought this was a great album. A quick turnaround from the Crusher. Did you start writing for Versus the World right after the Crusher came out?
yeah, yeah. We were. It was basically at that time non-stop. Like once one album was finished, we started working with the next one straight away. There was no pause in between or anything like that. Um, I don't really. Which songs were?
Like,
Is it like Thousand Years of Oppression is on there, right?
yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
and Death and Fire.
yeah. Well, I'm a little bit mistaken because we did one small. We did like one headline tour, a small headline tour, which was not so successful. But I know we practiced or rehearsed. We started jamming the Thousand Years of Oppression on that tour. So we did wrote that song basically on tour, and jammed it on the sound checks.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I have like the two CD version. I know on this one he did like a German version of Victorious March, which is Siegreicher Marsch. So what made you guys decide to sing it in German?
Uh, yeah, I think that was also a Metal Blade idea, and it was again, it was the at that time CD sales were going down, so the only way to kind of push CD sales was to give the fans as much as possible with every release. So we were just it was just what Metal Blade wanted. They wanted us to do as much as possible. That's why we put like a bunch of bonus materials and giveaways on every album from that point.
Nice.
And I think, I mean, at that point, our biggest fan base or the only fan base we had was in Germany. So it was kind of, and that the Victorious March was the biggest hit at the time still, um, before Death and Fire, I guess, came out. So we just figured we'd do it as a homage to the German fans, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know you also do some session work because I know in 2003 you recorded drums for The Dead with their EP Real Zombies Never Die. So how did you end up playing on that?
Well, you really did your research, man.
Yeah, you could thank
That's him.
Metal Archives for listing all
Okay.
this shit.
Well, see if there's any mistakes. But yeah, that's also another project that Linus back in A Canerous Quintet had together with a guy called Tobbe, and they had already done a split with Birdflesh, I think. Uh, and their idea was to just release singles or EPs and have different members except for them two on every release. And it was just fun. We would just wanted to do it was just like autopsy style death metal. We're actually I think we've been talking now for many years to try to get that online somewhere. If I think it's only Tobbe that has the original um, for that, and
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
it
love
would
to
be
hear it.
would be cool to get it out. But it's like autopsy style gore death metal, and we just got drunk and wrote the lyrics in the studio. Putting all the disgusting stuff we could come up with on there. It was just
Yeah, that's fucking metal, man.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know that same year you did another session drum work with Laid to Unrest. You did their demo prearranged funeral activity. Tell me about that.
Yeah, yeah. That's something actually didn't really want to do. I'm sorry to say, but I was a good friend with Zach, who lived in Stockholm at the time, and we were hanging out a lot. And I would say at that time he was basically my best friend, and we were just hanging out all the time and had so much fun. And then he had his band that he was, and I didn't really want to get involved because I felt that the music wasn't really my cup of tea, and I felt that he didn't have um, like the professionality that I wanted to achieve. but being a friend, I agreed to record the drums for, and he had already written the drums on like a drum machine, which I hated at the time. You know, I was totally against that, that the guitarist writes the drum parts, and he also we also we I didn't really listen to the songs, and we recorded them piece by piece by just me listening to what he had recorded, and then I just copied it, and he recorded, and then he put it together, and it was a shame because I did that, and then he started promoting that I was in the band, and I was like, no, I don't want to be in the band. You have to put me just as a session member, because I also didn't have time to be in more bands. I had I had a lot to do at the time. I had still a full time job, so I was working full time, and uh, band stuff with Amon Amarth and stuff like that. So he I guess he felt that I was being a dick about it, and we split as friends. So I haven't basically haven't talked to him since then. So it's a shame because we he was really good friend, and because I felt compelled to help him out, and he expected more from me. We It didn't work out. So I'm not proud of that recording. I hope no one really listened to it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But
um,
yeah, you were saying.
yeah, but yeah, I still wish him all the best. I'm sad that we separated, not as friends.
Yeah. And then that's still in the same year, 2003, you did Into Death by Curriculum Mortis. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was also something that I was working on already at the time, which was another reason why I didn't felt that I had more time, and that was originally that was a solo my solo project, and it was basically all the riffs that I had presented to Amon Amarth that was rejected, and I needed to do something with them, so I just recorded it. I think I recorded everything myself except the bass, which Linus recorded, and I think he recorded some guitar parts on one of the songs is an old A Canerous Quintet song actually that was rearranged
Really?
and rewritten. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. It was the fourth song I think on the thing. It's like five songs on it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was basically a solo project, um, and I was just screaming for the attention. I sent it to Michael Trengert at Metal Blade at the time, and he just answered. He just replied, "Oh, what is this? What do you want to do with this? Is this a band or what is it?" And I was too, too timid to say that I wanted him to release or I wanted it to release. I just said, "Ah, no, it's nothing. It's just some songs I put out." But I really I wanted to be heard for my. I guess I was a bit discouraged that my riffs didn't end up on any Amon Marth material at that time. I had one riff on the Crusher, but there was nothing after that, basically. And I just needed to get it out, I
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah, and I know like you also played like guitar and bass and not just only drums, but well, I was playing like those different instruments. Do you find like you're able to like express like different sides of you creatively?
Uh, yeah, and I think I think it was easier for me as a guitar player. And I've never been a good guitar player. Like I never practiced being a or any technique or anything. But I get the riffs in my head, and then I can put them down on the guitar, and I can learn them well enough that I can actually record them, or at that time I could at least. So I mean, it's just and as a drummer, I don't really think drums. I think riffs, which is I guess. So I sort of identify myself more as a guitar player than as a drummer, maybe. Um, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, going back into a Monomarth, Fate of Norns, love this album. Like what was it like kind of like going from like this to this? It's kind of hard to describe.
Um, yeah, well, that's my least favorite album with Amon Amarth, and it's the one that I have the absolute least input in. At that time, me and Ollie were in a feud, I guess.
Oh, really?
We were well, it was a bit childish, I guess, but I didn't speak to him at all. Like I only talked to him when I was directly addressed to answer a question or answer something. But other than that, I didn't talk to him. I was really think that what happened was I'm a huge Judas Priest fan,
Yeah.
like diehard Judas Priest fan, and the year before was when Rob Halford reunited with Judas Priest, and they were gonna play at Sweden Rock Festival in Sweden, and I wanted to go, um, and the I'm on Ollie and a couple of friends of his. They went every year to the Sweden Rock Festival. So I said to him, I want to tag along. Can you book for me as well? Because they always book this cabin that they stayed at every year. And I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a car, and it's like a 6, 7, almost 8 hours drive to that festival. So he was like, yeah, sure, you'll, we'll book you at the cabin. And then as we get closer to the festival, I asked him, am I haven't heard anything. Am I booked? And he was like, oh yeah, no shit, I forgot about that. So I didn't have a chance to go to the festival to see Judas Priest reunited with Rob Halford. Um, the tickets for the fest, like everything was getting sold out, and all the accommodation at that festival, it's basically sold out every year. So
Yeah.
I was fucking furious, and after that I didn't talk to him. I figured if we're not um, friends enough that you remember me booking that accommodation for the fest, I guess we're not really friends. So in the writing process of Fatum Norns, I was just sitting in the rehearsal room, waiting for them to tell me what to do. Basically,
Yeah.
it didn't work. I mean, I still added some stuff that I felt that it was a little bit too simple or simplified. But they, like for example, I didn't agree at all with Pursuit. No, wait, the what's the main? It's Pursuit of Vikings, right?
Yeah, that's probably, in my opinion, my favorite Amon Amarth song.
I hated it.
Oh, really?
I thought it was so lame. The riff was so lame, and the drums they wanted on it, I thought it was so lame. I mean, it is a catchy song. Don't get me wrong. I realized that later on that it's a huge fucking catchy song. But at the time, I was pissed with Ollie and I hated it, and I thought it was not the kind of music I wanted to play, and I didn't really want to be in the band that at all at the time. I was just miserable. And
Yeah.
when we recorded that, because we had limited budget, Metal Blade had slashed our budget. We couldn't afford to be. All of us couldn't be in the studio at the same time. So me and Ollie was recording the drums at Brno in Malmö the first week, and me not being on speaking terms with Ollie was a bit awkward because there was a like a half-hour walk from where we lived to the studio. So we walked in silence every morning and every afternoon back and forth from the studio, and yeah, it was a bad time in general. And yeah, I have basically there's none of my personality is on that record. Like
Yeah.
I just let them they told me what to play, and I didn't say anything.
Yeah, but tell me about like the touring wise. I believe the first on this cycle you started touring in the States for the first time. What was that like?
Uh, oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, that was we were supposed to do a tour, and the first tour was supposed to do in the States was in 2000. Uh, hang on, let me get the right years. When was 9/11? Was in 2001.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah. So yeah, we were booked to tour in the States the year after in 2002, and everything was like we were just gonna apply for our visas, and then one afternoon, Ollie called me. I was on my way home from work, and he called me, and it's like, "Have you seen the news?" And I was like, "No, what's up?" He's just like, "I just got back home." I said, and he's like, "Yeah, turn on the TV." Turn it on, and I saw that, and I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I guess we're not going to the States."
Yeah.
So that tour got canceled. Obviously, you guys closed the borders and everything. So yeah, it was the year after or 2 years after that we got the first tour, which was supposed to be a support tour for Marduk, I think. But since Eric at the time, the singer, he had a criminal record, I think, so he wasn't allowed to get in after the 9/11. Uh, or maybe there was someone else in the band that had the criminal record, but they weren't allowed at least to get in. And we didn't know. Um, so by the time we arrived in the States, the guy who booked the tour, he was like, yeah, so guys, I have good news and bad news. Or he said something like that. He was like, yeah, basically we had ordered a bunch of merch that was shipped to his office, and we got there, and he picked us up at the airport, and he said, yeah, Marduk's not coming. You can do the tour headlining or by yourself, but much smaller, and I'm not going to pay you anything, or you can fly home tomorrow. So we had like no option. We couldn't afford to buy new tickets or anything like that. So we just had to go on with it. So we did like a headline tour in the States with Diabolic, I think was the band. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that like playing in the States for the first time? Like, do you remember like the first show you did?
I don't remember the first show, but I do remember it was pretty miserable. We played like small, bars and clubs. It was maybe, I don't know, 50 to 100 people in the crowd or something like that. It was very small,
Yeah.
and it was pretty miserable in general. Um, we were not a headliner band, absolutely not, and I guess the scene in the U.S. at the time wasn't really that big either, at least not for death metal,
Yeah.
and it was still it's bigger. It was yeah, it was a rough time in general for most bands, I think. But yeah, it was interesting, and it was a learning experience, I guess. But it was basically going back like 10 steps from where we were in the U.S. In Europe, where like we did shows like that 10 years earlier in Europe. Sleeping at the venue and on the floor, and but just crashing out at people's houses and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I know you also did a tour with Children of Bodom and Trivium. What was that like?
But that was like a couple of years later, wasn't it? Because we did
I thought it was like '05.
yeah. So from that, yeah, exactly. The first tour was in '03, I guess, or something like that. And then we did a tour supporting Dayside uh, in the States, and then we did General Bodom, and that was the huge break for us, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was we were nothing in the States before that, so that was the best we could do at the time.
Yeah. And then going into With Odin on our side, I love this album. This is probably, in my opinion, probably like my second or third favorite Monomarth record. So, what was this like? Whole experience like?
That was a complete different. It was a turnaround point for everybody in the band. When going back to the Fate of Norns, I was not I wasn't not happy, and I don't think anyone else in the band was happy either. The Fate of Norms album was supposed to be the last album. We discussed that it is no, that was versus the world. Anyway, we had been pretty tired of just struggling, and the U.S. was lacking, and everything was just going against us. We felt so, but when we started to see traction from, I guess, Pursuit of Vikings and that song, and that triggered us to keep on going. And when we started working on the material for With Odin on Our Side, we felt that this is it. This is we can't stop now. This is we have the good material. This is gonna be the game changer. And everybody was like in a really positive spirit. We were like everybody were uh, going in the same direction. We were really pushing it. So that was a turning point for the band, I say, and it the reason it turned out so good. Well, I mean, we did just everything right on that. We wrote the right songs. We went to the right studio, and we were in the right mindset. Everybody. So it was. I agree with you. I think it's one of the best albums.
Yeah. And one of my favorite songs is Hermod's Ride to Hell, Loki's Treachery Part One. One, and I know he did like a part two on Search of Rising. So what made you decide to do sort of like a part one and then save it for two albums later?
No, it wasn't like that, and I'm happy that you like it because I originally wrote the whole song. Um, so the intro and the middle part is all mine, and then and that was also this was the first time that I was able to contribute with some music in the Marmara again. Ollie changed the end of the song and to something else, which was fine by me. But yeah, it's also my favorite, one of my favorite songs. Um, we only had that song, and the reason it was called Part One was because of how Johan wrote the lyrics for it. I don't really I don't really know why, but it was just he maybe had a second part written or something like that. I'm actually not sure. Yeah, I think maybe he had the second part written, but we didn't have the music written for the second part. We were after that we were just looking for the right song to fit the continuation, and we didn't have it on the album after, but it took one more album
Yeah.
before we had it.
Yeah. And then that's still in the same year, 2006. Yeah, I know you did The Plague with Let the World Burn. So tell me about that.
Yes, this that came from my solo thing with the curriculum mortis thing. I got Leo involved in that. He didn't do anything on the curriculum mortis thing, but stood beside me on the photo and said that he played guitar. But and Leo was the guitar player in the Canerous Quintet. So we were talking, me and Leo talking about maybe doing something with the Canerous Quintet again, or at least starting writing more music together. And then I don't really remember how it happened, but somehow the stars aligned, so we started talking about writing music together. It's the same. It's basically the Canerous Quintet lineup from '98. So and we wrote that. I think Linus and Jesper wrote most of it. Um, and it was just that we felt that the music wasn't a Canerous Quintet. So we felt that we needed to call it something else. So we just came up with another name, and that's what happened.
Yeah. And I know you also did This Ending with Into the Machine with, of course, Leo and Linus.
Yeah,
So tell me about that.
that's the same band. It's so the plague, though that was the band, and we got signed to Metal Blade, obviously through my contacts with them. But they had just signed another band called something with Plague. I can't even remember. It was like a band that existed for a year or so. But they told us that you can't be called the Plague because we already signed another band that's called something similar. So you have to change the name. So we changed it to Descending, and it's the same band.
Oh yeah, and I thought that album was pretty badass.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
it's yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah. Then going into 2008, you did the next Amon Amarth album, Twilight of the Thunder God. love this album. This is probably my favorite Amon Amarth album. So, what was sort of like the writing and recording process like for this?
Well, we still had the high, I guess, from Without on Our Side, so we just continued on that track basically, and I think one of the first songs that was written for it was the title track, "Twilight of the Thunder God," and when
Great way to start off the album.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when I guess Ollie already knew, and when I heard the main riff on that, we just knew that that's gonna be an instant hit, and I mean it's an anthem of a death metal
Yeah,
song. Like
same.
there's
Same. Have you also heard like Sabaton covering that song? I thought it
yeah,
was really
yeah,
great and Peter Tagrin also did like some backing growls on that. I thought it
yeah,
was interesting hearing like clean vocals in a Monomarth song.
yeah. No, it's I heard it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. And another one of my favorite songs is Guardians of Asgard. That's like my top one of my top favorite Monomarth songs, working with the late great LG Petrov from Entombed. So how did he end up featuring on that song?
Um, that's thanks to Johan and maybe Ted, because they were football fans, soccer, European football, like so they went to and they were supporting the same team, so they went to all these games and hung out with him a lot, and it was just I guess they just asked him if he wanted to do a co singing on that song, and he was like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
that. No, not
Yeah, and
complicated.
yeah, and I love like on this you also did filmed a live DVD from Summer Breeze 2007. So how did you guys decide to like record it for a DVD to put on the special edition of With Owen on Our Side or Twilight of
Again,
the Thunder God?
still the fact that Metal Blade wanted to release as big packages as possible, with as much bonus material as possible, and we didn't want to write any bonus songs. We didn't want to write any extra songs or anything like that. So we just tried to come up with other things that we could put on the album to as a bonus. And that show was recorded anyway. Summer Breeze is, or at least was, very tied together with Metal Blade in that fact that Michael Trengert, who was the CEO of Metal Blade Europe, he was the co-owner of Summer Breeze Festival. So it was easy for us to, if we played a show there, we got high on the bill, and they recorded the show, I guess, basically for free for us. So it was an easy thing to put on as a bonus.
Yeah, and I recently like rewatched that DVD. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was interesting that you also had like people playing Vikings like fighting each other on stage. So how did that idea come to be?
Yeah, that was it was around that time that we started full on embracing the Viking thing. We Before that we always said that no, we're not a Viking band. We're a death metal band who only sings about Vikings and stuff like that. And that was it was all Michael Trengert. He was becoming slowly like the sixth member of the band, and he had been basically for many years. Basically from the beginning, actually, he was basically the manager of the band. Um, and he was the one who held the band together. I would say he was like the glue in a way, because his idea was that we were going to be a band. We were going to be down to earth. We were going to be rooted. We were going to hang out with the fans. We're going to be like not be rock stars, and we're going to do what the fans uh, want want to have. Um, and when the Viking stuff, when that started to pick up, because it wasn't a huge thing, it was almost slowing us down in the beginning, but that started to pick up, and he just went with it. He saw the potential, I guess. He was like, he and Ollie, I guess, co came up with that. I'm not sure exactly how it um, started, but I think, well, no, yeah, we did talk to these this live reenactment. I can't really remember exactly the uh, in what order things happened, but Michael Trengert knew some Viking guys in Germany or in the UK. We got introduced to them. He was also doing this German medieval band. I can't remember the name of them. Ogden something. Oh shit, I don't remember. But yeah, so basically he he got us into the idea to push the Viking style even more and put on bigger shows, doing like live reenactments and stuff like that. So that's how that happened. And
Yeah. Yeah. Then flash forward to 2009, you did the next Descending album, Dead Harvest. So tell me about that.
yeah, I think at that time I did not have the time to be in Descending as well. We quit. I quit my daytime job in like 2005, 2006. So I was doing full on Amon Amarth. It was my full time job basically, and I was not as involved in Descending anymore. I just basically showed up between tours and recorded the album. So I think the material is really good. The songs are really good, but we stressed the recording, I guess, a bit to get it done, and also we I didn't have time to be involved in the band. They did a couple of shows with a session drummer, but uh, it didn't it didn't get any traction. And also, which was a bit discouraging, I tried to push for getting like a support slot with them on a Amarth for Descending, but the guys in Amon Amarth were completely against that. They were like, "No, we don't want you to be tired by the time our show, so you're not allowed to play with another band before." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me decide if I'm gonna be tired or not." and and it's funny because like a year or so later, we came up with the idea to doing an evening with where I played drums for like 2.5 hours, and then there was no one was concerned about my ability to play the show or not at that time. So it
And
was,
they were, yeah, and you were like, you were saying, they're like, well, shit.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
then going into Surtur Rising, I love this album. Like, what was the making of this album like?
uh, it's kind of blurry, to be honest. I don't have that much memory from that particular recording. It just it was we were just it was just like a steamrolling. The wheels were just in motion. We were just basically holding on to whatever was rolling and following
Yeah.
it. So um, I don't really have that much to say about that album. Um, I can't even remember the recording. It was with Jens Bogren, right? Yeah, it was Jens Bogren.
Yeah. Yeah. Legendary producer, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, he changed the band forever as well. I think yeah, Twilight was the first album we recorded with him, and he helped us as a band realizing how to approach the songwriting, and for that album later on, we basically just adapted what he had taught us. So we cutting down unnecessary parts. Never before had we written a riff and only played it 3 times. That was in our mind, that was crazy. You play a riff either 2 times or 4 times, never three. But Jens was always like, "Yeah, you need to introduce the riff 1 time and then with the vocals 2 times. That's enough." We just tightened everything together, and I think it was even to the point that when we showed Jens the songs for that album, he was like, "Oh, you overdid it. You need to go step back a little bit." And we're like, "Okay, sorry."
Yeah. And I love on this one, you did like this thing called Bloodshed over Bochum, Germany from December 28th to the 31st of 2008, where you basically played the first four albums in concert like each day. So how'd that idea come to be to sort of like play your first four albums in full?
I think that was also Michael Trenger's idea. We they were planning to re-release the albums, and we had talked. There was talks about doing like we had started doing the evening thing, the evening with the thing, or no, that was after. Oh, fuck, it's a blur. It's a long time ago, but yeah, it was. We needed. We I think it was. I think the original idea was that they were going to re-release the first four albums for Metal Blade, and they wanted bonus material. We started talking about doing covers of the songs, or like like re-recordings of the songs, and we didn't want to do that. So we said we're going to do live recordings instead. Um, and then I think, yeah, Michael wanted us to do like a special thing for fans. So we booked this venue in Bochum in Germany, which was like home ground for us, and sold it as a package, an evening with Amon Amarth for 4 nights in a row.
Yeah, kind of like your own residency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was it was hard. We from morning to night we just spent we played through the set like 2 3 times every afternoon, and then played it live and recorded everything. And then what you hear, I think they overdubbed the guitars in the end, anyway, at home in the studio. But yeah, it was a tough tough job.
Yeah, but I know you also played this album in full in concert because I actually live in Georgia in the USA. I had some friends that apparently saw you guys live and they played this album in full. So what made you decide to do this one in full?
Yeah, that was when we got signed to Continental as a booking agent, and we had a booking agent in the States as well. I can't remember which one it was. But either way, we were struggling. We were still struggling. I mean, we were getting up there. We were getting more and more successful as a band, but it seemed like the scene didn't really believe in us still. Every time we announced that we were going to do a headline tour, especially in the U.S., but also in Europe, uh, there were no support. We didn't get the support bands that we wanted. You know, we uh, um, we had ideas of which bands we wanted to have on support, and they basically came back to us and like, uh, don't you mean that you should be supporting us? So it was a weird situation, and in the U.S. we just gave up. We got some offers for support bands, and we were like, there's no point in us paying because we paid the support bands. We had to take from our budget of the show to pay the support bands. We just said there's no point in paying these bands that aren't they're not attracting any more fans to the show. They're not We don't get anything back from what we pay them for. So we just fuck it. We'll do the show. We do an evening with. We did it in Bochum. We do an evening with, and we just play the full album, and then we do a best of set, and just play for our fans. So that's how that started. That came about because we didn't find any good support bands.
Yeah. Then going into 2012 in January, you did the Systematic Worship EP from this ending. I thought it was pretty cool. I know you released sort of like one song at a time, and it's only like three songs. So how did that idea come to be?
Uh, it was, I guess, it was the what do you call it? The death motion. When you're cramping, and that was the death cramps. of the band. I would say at that point we hadn't released. We got kicked off Metal Blade or dropped by Metal Blade because we were signed to the U.S. Metal Blade, and we nothing happened in the U.S. at all. So they dropped us, and we had nothing going for us in the sending. So we just felt we had a couple of songs that we were working on, but we didn't have the energy or time to write the full album. So we just put those songs out there and released them as is, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And then your last album with Amon Amarth, Deceiver of the Gods. I love this album. This was pretty much one of my favorite albums from 2013. So what was this whole album like?
That was I thought it was that was probably one of my I always struggled in the studio up until that point with every band. You know, it was a stressful situation for me. I felt I didn't feel comfortable enough, and I felt um, I had too much pressure on myself to perform, and I felt pressure from the other guys, and basically recording was a pain in the ass for me, and that was the first time that I felt pretty confident. I felt that I had developed as a drummer. I felt very confident in my parts. There was nothing on that album that I felt was too hard or too complicated to play. So I went in with full confidence in the studio, and I remember it was the first time. It was the yeah meeting and working with Andy Sneap.
Yeah. Currently
It was
killing it with Judas Priest.
yeah
So what was that
yeah
like working with him?
it was amazing, and he was so laid back. You know, we came to the studio. I set up my drums. And we sound checked and set everything up, and he was like, okay, it's time for dinner, let's go to dinner. He drove us to some Indian restaurant. We got food, and we were drinking a couple of beers, and and then like 8 9 maybe at night coming back to the studio, it's like, okay, so you want to start tracking the drums now? And I was like, what? I've been drinking. I can't play drums now. I mean, that's not how you do it. And he's like, oh, come on, yeah, it's just fuck it. It's not so serious. Well, like speaking with this fucking British accent. And we tried tracking like the first song, but obviously I couldn't do it. I was like, I couldn't play at that point. But it was a wake up call for me to not take it so seriously in the studio. So. Um, for me, that recording went really smooth up until one point, but I can get back to that. But I actually finished all my drum parts ahead of schedule. I think I had like 10 days. I did it all in 8 or something days, and everything went smooth except for As Loke Falls, which was the song that Johan Söderberg wrote. And he had told me like this. I didn't like the song really that much. I thought it was too simple, and it was the same. They wanted the same kind of gallopy drum pattern on the whole song, and I wanted to switch it up and do something else. Um, but then Andy said that it was probably better just to keep the drums rolling, and I listened to him, so I just kept it as it is. But the middle part, there's like a middle break, the bada 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 bada. And Johan had said to me, yeah, on this part, I want you to do some cool drum fill style, so that fits the riff. And me felt like, that's gonna be my time to shine. I'm gonna show off. I'm gonna do something cool, some quads, fill style. And I practiced that, and that was the only thing that I slightly struggled with, um, but because I wanted to really show off, like do something really cool. And then when it was time to record that, you were out in the drum room playing your stuff. Track stops, headphones get silent, and you see the other guys in the control room talking, discussing stuff. After a while, you hear the, all right, Fred, can you come in here for a second? It's like, okay, what now? Get in. And Johan goes to me. He's like, yeah, that's not how I was imagining it. I was like, okay, well, why didn't you tell me how you imagine it instead of telling me to come up with something cool? Because that's what he said. And he wanted, yeah, I wanted more like Iron Maiden, like bada 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 bada. And I was like, okay, but that's super simple, but fine, whatever, I'll do it. And I got pissed off because I put so much energy on writing that part, and I was a bit like nervous, not pulling enough in the studio, and they didn't even give me a chance to try, and because it's not what they wanted, so I had to record that simplified version, and that was the only uh, negative side of that recording. Everything else was pretty smooth, but
Yeah.
we also did those the sounds like, I can't remember what did we call it, the in the vein of, or something like that. The bonus material is like 4 or 5 songs in the style of there was one Judas Priest sounding song, one Black Sabbath, and one Motorhead track. I don't know if you have that
Yeah.
bonus material.
All I have is just the standard CD. Remember getting this at like Best Buy when it first came
Okay,
out.
yeah. Yeah, there was at least for the Europe, there was I think it's on iTunes, something like that. Yeah, we did. Yeah, and yeah, so like 4 or 5 songs. The idea was to not play covers, but to do songs that that sounds like those bands. So we did one song. Yeah, there was one AC/DC song, one Motorhead song, one Black Sabbath, and one Priest song. I'm not. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And and yeah, and that was the one thing that was really not working so well in the studio. We hadn't written anything, and the first I thought the idea was kind of retarded at first. I didn't agree with it. And the first idea that Ollie presented was a Metallica sounding song. It sounded like something from And Justice for All, but it just sounded like you take the riffs from And Justice for All and play them poorly. you know, that's what it sounded like, and I was like, this is not good, and I was completely against it, and I hated it, and we were fighting, and then Johan wrote the ACDC song, and I was like, oh, but this is actually pretty cool. This sounds like something ACDC would do, but it's not. So yeah, so I got from being totally against the idea, I got more positive to it towards that, but it was a bit weird because we couldn't rehearse anything, and they wanted to rehearse it, but we didn't have the only option we had was for me to play on a crappy digital set that didn't really respond well, and I was just not into it at all. But it was fun to record them, and I think the result was pretty cool. But we had a bit of a fallback on the how that came about.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you started touring for a little bit. And then, of course, it was t in 2015 you left them on a March. So, how hard was it to leave the band? Because you were in the band for nearly almost 20 years.
Yeah, and I didn't leave. I got right out fired,
You,
basically.
you got the boot.
Yeah. Well, it was all the stuff accumulating to that point. With I had my idea of my integrity and my musicianship, what I wanted to uh, do and what I wanted to accomplish, and I think, or the feeling I had later on was that they just wanted me as a drummer. That's it. They just wanted me to play drums on their songs, and we had a clash basically about that from the beginning. I guess in a way there was some other stuff going on as well, but yeah, it it is what it is.
Yeah. Then going into 2016, you did the next Descending album, Garden of Death. Like, tell me about making that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, um, that was a new turning point for Descending, I guess. It was I obviously I was hungry for making more music, and wrote a lot of I had a lot of songs written. A lot of the stuff that ended up on that Descending album was riffs that or even full songs that I had written for Amon Amarth that I wanted to have on the Amon Amarth album, but it was also rejected. So yeah, I think we found some new energy and wanted to do a really good album, and I think that's my favorite album with Descending, I guess.
Yeah. And then I know in that same year in 2016 you joined up with Netherbird and you did the little I guess single Pillars of the Sky. So how'd you hook up with Netherbird?
Um, uh, w- um, he, well, became friends with Johan, the singer, in the event. We met at just bars randomly in Stockholm. Not randomly. He knew my wife um, through circumstances. It doesn't matter. But so we were hanging out, and I had just I was basically I we were just talking about band stuff, and I said that I was not in the Monomarth anymore, and he was like, "Okay, well, we maybe need a drummer eventually." I was like, "Yeah, just give me a call. Could be fun." And he did. He called me, and the first thing I did was that video, which I didn't drum on that song. That was Fredrik Vidigs from Marduk who drummed on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, was it hard to like sort of match to what he was playing when you did the video?
Yeah, I mean, you can always fix stuff in edit, post edit, and stuff like that to make it match. But I think, yeah, it worked out fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course 2016 like you reformed a Canerous Quintet. So what made you decide to start the band back up again?
Uh, I think I think it was either like someone who wanted to re-release one of the albums, and we started talking about it. And there was the fact that we had I think we had a show. There was someone who wanted to book a show, and so that's basically in the same time period that happened, and the show didn't end up being until 2018. But we started talking about it, and we kind of like started feeling how it would be to pick up that band again a little bit slowly, So
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know in 2018 you sort of did a re-record of The Only Pure Hate. So what made you guys to sort of like re-record the album?
because we weren't happy with the original ones, how it turned out, we thought it didn't get the justice it deserved. I mean, it was a sound, just a sound wise, we didn't like it, and we felt we wanted to give it another chance to and also this was stupid, but back then when we recorded the Only Pure Hate, Thomas Skogsberg, he asked us, "Do you want to buy the real the real tape of the recording, the mix, like the unmixed, just the original real tape?" And we're like, "Oh shit, yeah, how much is that?" And it's like, $50." And we're like, "Oh, that's a lot of money. I don't think we can't afford it." So we didn't buy we don't have the original recording of the album. Otherwise, we could have remixed it or remastered it or done anything with it, but we have nothing. So we don't have the original recording of it, because what he did, like he re-recorded other new albums on the reels. If you didn't buy it, he put something else on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we decided to re-record it, this thing instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that version sounds better than the original, to be honest. It sounds more just like there's kind of like that oomph kind of thing to it.
Yeah, it sounds better. Maybe it didn't really turn out exactly the way we wanted it either, but it's a little bit better at least.
Yeah. And is there
or
plans to
rather,
do like more stuff with the Canerous Quintet?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have ideas for a couple of new songs, and we're finally gonna make it happen ASAP. I would say we originally we had planned to try to record something this year, but it's not gonna happen. But hopefully next year.
All right. And then going into 2019, you sort of did the next Netherbird album, Into the Vast, or the first album, full length, like Into the Vast Uncharted. So, what was that whole recording like?
Uh, what was that like? Yeah, that was the first time working with Sverker in Wing Studio, and I had I had my regained or regain I never had before, but I had my confidence from the working with Andy Sneap, so I took it pretty easily, just going into the studio and record. That was from that point I started having an easier time with recordings, and Sverker is really he was really easy to work with as well. So it was nothing in particular. The only thing with Netherbird I would say is that the two albums that I recorded, Pontus, who writes all the music for Netherbird, what he did was that he would write the whole album and put it together from beginning to end, basically arranging the vocals, arranging the drums. He wrote like programmed drum patterns and stuff like that, and then he just sent over. Here's the album. This is what I want it to sound like. Just record it like this. And
Yeah.
that's it doesn't really work out for me. I don't really like that. Well, that's mild. I hate it. But I still, you know, try to put my personality into it and try to squeeze in some s- some of my soul into it here and there. But yeah, it was basically just a hired gun situation
Yeah.
when it comes to the drum department. But I mean, I love the guys. We're all friends, and then it's just that I don't like that kind of way of working with music.
Yeah. And then flash forward to 2021. When you were kind of busy that year, because the first thing I want to talk about that year, you also joined up with Myronath and you did their album Craft. So tell me about that.
Yeah, fuck, I don't even remember how. I think I just got contacted by them, and they asked me if I could record their album. And I was like, yeah, sure, I could do that. At
Yeah.
that point, I didn't have any problems going into the studio, and I think I started listening to. They also produced they gave me a here's the album. They had programmed the drums. Here's the album. Can you record it for us? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I think I just started listening to the album like 1 or 2 weeks before the studio. Just listened to it. I didn't even go down to the rehearsal place to practice it. I just listened to it on my way to work, and then maybe ran through a couple of songs 1 or 2 times in the rehearsal room, and then just went down to the studio in Norrtälje and just recorded it in like 2 days.
Nice. Nice. I thought it's just that when I heard that album, I was like, whoa, because I'm in the black metal and that's some really sick shit.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I like it. I haven't listened to it much afterwards, but yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then of course the same year you did your last record with Netherbird, Arete. So tell me about that.
Yeah, and I already told a bit. It was basically the same thing. I just got an album introduced to me, and but I do think that that album is the epitome, if that's a good expression for that. But like the peak Netherbird. It's a really good album, and it's a shame that it didn't get any traction at all. The label that we had didn't. push it enough, I think, and it was just not the time, I guess. It's hard, it's actually hard for an existing band, a band that has existed for like many years and released like three, four, five albums, and then do a really good album, and nothing happened in the first with the first couple of albums. Everybody in the scene just thinks that, oh well, it's just another one of those albums that's nothing's going to happen, and that is exactly what then happens, because everybody expects nothing to happen. So it's hard as a new band, and I think Johan and the guy, they had already realized that it wasn't really going anywhere, and it was not going to go anywhere. But we still had some hopes that it would pick up some traction. But when that didn't happen, I guess everybody just felt tired and felt it's not worth fighting for, you know.
Yeah. And then you also did your last record with Descending Needles of Rust.
Uh, no, I didn't record that.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Oh, you only
I
did like one. I think you did only one song, The Hunted.
no, we rehearsed the stuff. We rehearsed stuff, and I co-wrote some of the songs. But I didn't record the drums on it.
Uh, so that was kind of the one
That was the
fuck up
first.
from
That's your first mistake.
I knew it was going to happen
Yeah.
somehow, and I'm glad it happened later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it was the same year, 2021. You played with When Nothing Remains. Tell me about them.
We never. Oh, here it comes. Everything comes at once. Yeah, I never did anything with When Nothing Remains. I got contacted by what's his face? The main guy. It slipped my mind right now. But the main guy in that band, he just contacted me and asked if I could. I think he first wanted me to record something, and then there was talks about some live show, and he sent over some demos that he had, and he had two bands, two projects going on at the same time. But all that just amounted to nothing in the end. I never played one note. We never practiced. I never recorded anything. So I'm not. That's. I'm not. I've never been like part of that band.
Oh, all right. And then going into 2022, you joined up with Van Nander, and you did your first record with them, Beneath the Mold. I was like, wow, this is just this. When I first heard it, kind of reminds me a little bit of like Be Behemoth meets Dimmu Borgir. So tell me about them.
Oh yeah. They had a rehearsal room. Uh, no, yeah, I was. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I just found out about them, and I sort of knew Anders, the main guy, by proxy. By like we met with mutual friends, but I'd never really hung out with him. But I found out about the band, and I just stumbled upon them basically, and I heard that they needed a drummer, and thought that I thought they were pretty good, and I saw potential in the band, so I just contacted him and I said, "Hey, you need a drummer? I'm available," and that's what happened. So I just that was one of the only bands that I applied for.
Nice, nice. And then I know going into last year, you did your the second record, In Silence Descent. So tell me about that one.
I think that's a phenomenal album. It's my probably my best drum performance ever in any band. It was really fun to record actually, and I'm really glad how that turned out. And I think the album is fantastic. There's not a bad song on that album. I really wish um, all the best for. Well, I did wish all the best for that band, and I thought that album would get a lot more traction as well, but yeah, nothing really happened in there.
Yeah.
But
And then, of course, the same year in 2024, you played drums with Kevayan on the album The Formless Fires. So, what was it like working with Jacob?
Yeah, I actually he contacted me like 2 years before that, and wanted me to play on their first live show ever. And I did that. It was they were going to play a club here in Stockholm, Club Fredagsmangel. And he called me and asked if I could do the show because his drummer, the Finnish guy Tommy, wasn't able to do it because he had some tours that he wanted to do instead or something like that. And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely, I'll do it. I had heard the band and I thought they were fucking fire. I just instantly go for me. And then I saw that they had another show booked in Gothenburg like 2 weeks later. So I just said to Jacob, "Hey, man, if I'm gonna do the first show and you have a second show booked like straight after, wouldn't it be easier for you if I do both of them?" I said because I wanted to do both of them. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's actually much better. So yeah, can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I did the first shows with them, and after the show in Gothenburg, Jacob was like, "Yeah, I want you to be in the band. This is awesome. Uh, I just you uh, if you wanna be in the band, you have the spot." And I was like, "Oh, cool, awesome." And I would say uh, that being playing with Jacob and also the other guys uh, is the one of the best experiences I've ever had in the band because they're so fucking good, tight musicians. Um, and we he lives up north, or they all lived up north, and they came to Stockholm to my rehearsal room the same day we had the first show, and we just started playing like the show, the songs, you know, first from the first chord until the last song, it was just pure excellency. There's no mistakes. Every break super tight. All the endings we didn't have anything planned, but we was just like rocking it out, doing the brum, 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 bam, bam, and everybody was just into it. It's completely professional guys, so it's really, really, really fun to play with them, at least on the first couple of shows. Then we shifted some members, and the focus shifted. I think in the beginning, but that's another story. It
Yeah.
wasn't a black metal band to me in the beginning. It was more just a fun band playing music together.
Yeah. And of course, and now last but certainly not least, you have a new band, Fimbul Winter, consisting of course, Nico and Anders, formerly of Amon Amarth. So, how did the idea to come to be to start up Fimbul Winter? Because I know the name was taken from like a demo from Amon Amarth in '94.
Yeah. Yep. It came about as easily as Nico had his 50th birthday party planned, um, and we were out drinking beers together. We've been friends for like growing really close friends for the past 15 years or so, hanging out a lot, and we were we were out drinking beer, and he was like, I want to play the demo, the Arrival of the Fimbul Winter, on my birthday party. He was already playing with he has a punk band called Stockholm United, and he was going to play with them on at his party. And he said to me he wanted to play the Amon Amarth demo, and I was like, yeah, fuck, sounds cool. Of course, you should do it. I can play the guitar, no problem. I can do it. And and didn't think much more of that. But then, as time came closer, it was actually going to happen, and I had to actually learn the songs and to play them on guitar. I knew the songs by heart. I can hum them in my head from beginning to end, no problem at all. But I had to at least take them out on guitar and play them but we did, and it worked out. We did a couple of rehearsals together, and Anders eventually he was also invited to the party, but he had a show booked with his band on the date, so he was not going to be able to make it. But that show got canceled. So he said, and we asked him again, and he's like, "Yeah, of course, I can do it." And yeah, that's how that started. We just playing the demo, and then we thought that was fun, so we got asked to play at the close-up boat, which is one of these metal cruises that goes between Stockholm and Finland and back. And we did that show as well, and it was also hella fun to do that.
Yeah.
And in between there somewhere, we had fun jamming together, and we said, should we do something more about this? Should this be a band? And I was like, well, I have like my phone is full of riffs from the 90s and until now. Basically, I've just been piling them up, and I have nowhere to put them. So I can send over all my riffs. If you, Anders, want to put it together and see what happens, then I'm up for it. That could be fun. So we did. We put the folder together with my riffs, Nico's riff. He had a bunch of riffs, and I guess Anders had a bunch of riffs, or he wrote a bunch of riffs. I'm not sure, but he put all that and just arranged it and gave us like 2 3 songs in a matter of a couple of weeks, and we're like, yeah, this is awesome. We need to do something with this, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's how that started.
Yeah, and then of course, like, how did you end up getting Clint to do vocals? Because and how does that work? Because I know he's in Australia, and then you all the rest of the band's like in Sweden. So how did you hook up with Clint to be the vocalist?
Yeah, and that's he goes way back. He's a huge Amon Amarth fan, and we got to know him first through back in the day when I don't know if you know, but there was a forum called Ultimate Metals or Ultimate Metal,
I think it
where
sounds familiar.
basically all the bands, or at least yeah, I think basically all the bands that were at least active had the forum on that main forum. So we had an Amon Amarth forum on there where we, as band members, we were hanging out with the fans, chatting on and off. And Clint was one of the first guys on there. He was a huge fan, diehard fan, and we started talking to him over the forum. And then once we played in, I don't remember, maybe I think he was at the Bochum shows. So he came to Europe to see the Bochum shows.
Oh wow.
When we met him when we played in Australia. And after a couple of, like, after a while, you meet someone enough times, and you become friends basically. So, and he uh after that, every time he came to Stockholm, he would stay at my place. So he's staying here, and going to some shows, or if he was doing some stuff in Sweden. And so he was asked because he was invited to Nico's party. He's friends with Nico and Anders as well. So he was coming to the party, and when we were talking about doing the demo, Nico was like, "Who should do the vocals?" And I was like, "Well, either Poppe, who was the original singer in Scum back then, but I think he was never. There was something going on there with Nico, so that didn't happen. And then, yeah, obviously Clint should do it, because he's a huge fan and he loves those songs and he's a good singer. So we asked him. He said, "Fuck yeah!" So that's that. And I think it's complicated with him being in Australia, but it's worth it. I would say he's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I know you also have like a like session bass by Tobias Christensen, who plays, of course, with Necrophobic and with Grave and Dismember. So how is that like working with him?
I mean, we're all adults, almost said, but we're all friends. You know, we know each other in the Stockholm scene. So he's friends with both me and Nico and Anders. So it's just a matter of when we recorded the drums in the studio, we were talking about what we should do about bass because we didn't have one bass player basically. And we wanted a bass player, not someone just playing the bass. I mean, I could probably record the bass, but I didn't want it. I wouldn't have done it as good job. I would just have done something simplified. So we wanted a bass player, and he was. I think Nico met him at the show. Yeah, I mean, Nico met him at the show and just briefly mentioned it, and he was like, "Yeah, fuck, I'll do it, absolutely." So
Nice.
that's how that came about. Yeah.
Nice. And I know you know, of course, November 14th, they're going to drop the debut EP, What Once Was. So what was sort of like the whole writing and recording process like for the EP?
The writing process, as I explained a little bit, was completely smooth. We just put all the riffs in a folder, and Anders spit out five amazing arrangements with the songs. And then when we started recording the drums, and when I started recording the guitars, we changed a little bit, mixed some stuff up, and just did some small adjustments. But it's been really smooth. Just that it took a long time because we started recording in March or April. We tracked the drums, and then we weren't finished with everything until end of June, July, maybe. Just timing wise, everything has to fit and work for everybody. So it's but
Yeah. Yeah, and I loving like the first single, M Mounds of Stones. I think that's like a is that like a good representation of what the EP will be like, or with this there's just like more to be discovered?
yes and no, I guess. No, it's absolutely a good representation. Absolutely. I think it's probably the most catchy song, maybe. I don't know. It's not really a catchy song like that, but it's most probably the most catchy song. But it's definitely a good representation. But I think all the five songs have their uniqueness, and it's I'm at that point where it's hard to pick one favorite actually. So but it was definite. It was absolutely sure that Mounds of Stones was going to be the first single. That was no question about it. That I felt that already when we recorded it. It's like this is going to be the first single.
Yeah, and then with the formation of the band, because I know like three of the members, three of you all are in a Monomart. Did you want to like combine sort of like your past experiences with Fimbulwinter or with this when you wanted to start completely with from scratch with a new slate and try to distance yourself from what you all have done in the past?
No, I mean it's um, we we have the past is our past. Like that's what who we are, and um, it's definitely a new band. And I think we bring something. What we wanted to do was that we wanted to do music the way we think melodic death metal should sound like, right? We think we think that most melodic death metal bands have moved away from what it was supposed to be back back in the early 90s, only in the 90s, and everybody's trying to become this new thing. That's um, I don't want to say that they're not generic. Absolutely, I love all the bands that are out there and they're doing their thing, but it feels like everybody's sort of following a similar formula to how they write the songs. It's it needs to be, and maybe it's because they have record labels or whatever, and it needs to be follow a certain suit. It needs to be something to attract a certain amount of fans or whatever. I don't really know, or maybe it's just what they want to do. I don't know, but it feels to me personally that a lot of bands are have moved away from what once was.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't planned. It just happened.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's all good, man. So, but also kind of in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next for you in terms of like with Fimbulwinter or any of your other projects? Have you got like any more shows in the works? Maybe a US tour?
Yeah, you right now it looks very tricky to get over there, unfortunately. Hopefully that clears up in the next couple of years or whenever. But yeah, we're working on a couple of shows. We already have like two shows confirmed for Fable Winter for next summer. And we're going to do a couple of selected shows in Europe, absolutely. And we have already started working on new material. So this is going to be a new band that's you're going to have to stick with for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and with that first song, I feel like you're hitting the ground running.
it's 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 been good. The reception has been really good. I would like to say over expectation, but it's not because I expected it to be really good. Because I love it. I think it's good. I mean, yeah, I know you're not allowed to say that, but I think this is what's missing in the scene right now. And if you don't agree, that's fine. I don't care. I think it's good, and I think it's needs to exist.
Yeah. But thank you, Frederick, for this conversation. It was great to be able to chat with you. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just gonna apologize for being such a fucking blabbermouth. I've been
Hey, I
babbling
love
for.
it. I've done some interviews where I'm like 2 minutes in and I'm already on my fifth or sixth question.
Okay, yeah. Well, so I think I've said enough. So I just want to, yeah, thanks for the time, and it's been good chatting.
Yeah. So everybody, Frederick Anderson from Fimbulwinter, and we'll